Do you have any resources on whetstone recommendations or techniques? Trying to up my sharpening game and need some tips. One thing we're trying to avoid here at Cult Flave Industries, TM Company Incorporated, is teaching people techniques. There's so many other videos out there that do this better. We're just here for the reviews, but we will recommend some resources that hopefully will help you out and some equipment that we use that we like. So let's start with the tools. First up is the thing you're gonna be sharpening on. So I know a lot of people use these pull-through sharpeners or electric sharpeners. Both of those have really negative results on the edge of your blade. And I actually checked them out under the microscope to see just how different the effects were. Did it make sense to focus on water stones? Because they definitely take more time, they take more practice. And the answer was a resounding yes. Those pull-through grinders just absolutely tear up your blade and it's not worth it whatsoever. So these are my water stones. They're made by a company called Naniwa. They're kind of a combo of two lines of theirs. The Chosera, which is an older line, it came with a plastic stand that basically everyone I know ripped off because they were terrible. But they now have a line called Naniwa Professional, which comes without that plastic backing. They are pretty expensive still, but they're much, much nicer in my opinion. Now, what I really like about Naniwa, and in particular the Chosera and Professional lines, is that they have a high abrasive to adhesive ratio. So basically all these are is big blocks of abrasive with a little bit of adhesive to hold them together. As you work with them, that abrasive wears off and forms a slurry that sharpens your knife. That's kind of the important bit here. Basically, the less you pay, typically the more adhesive and the less abrasive you get. So you get a little more bang for your buck if you pay a bit more. Now, the stones I have here are a 400 grit, which I use for basically reshaping a knife, changing its geometry. If there's a chip, if there's repairs that need to be done, 400 grit is my go-to. A lot of people will use a 220. I think 400 works fine. Outside of a case where I need to actually repair something, I'm mostly working with my 1000 grit and 6000 grit stones. 1000 grit is where I do my initial sharpening and set the angle and bevel, and 6000 is where I polish that to a mirror finish. The other upside of these stones is that they only require splashing and go. You don't have to soak them for 15 minutes beforehand. I had some old stones that did require that and I found them super annoying to get out. So this was really the only way to go for me. Once you have your knife sharpened, you do need to take one final step, which is called stropping. If you think of like old school barbers where they would move the razor back and forth on the piece of leather, that's called stropping. This is a cork version of that, which I find to be a bit more forgiving than leather. If you dig in on leather by mistake, by going the opposite direction, you will have a bump in your leather basically forever. This is cork coated in a compound made of chromium oxide, which is the shiny part of stainless steel in solution. It basically just binds to the cork and then it pulls all the metal out. So if you see all the black on this compound, that is just little pieces of stainless steel or carbon steel from my knives. It's all the stuff that pulled off that would make it harder to cut with. So these stones themselves actually do take a little bit of maintenance. There are a couple types of stones that help you repair your water stones. This is a tool that helps remove any steel that gets embedded in the finer grit stones. That happens pretty frequently. The lower grit, not so much of an issue. Basically, steel will get embedded in the abrasive over time, and if you don't get that out, the abrasive can't do its work as well, so this helps pull that out. There's another type, I don't have one, but I need one actually. It's a leveler, and you basically grind down a stone so you don't have like divots in it. That helps you keep a consistent clean edge. Now, the other tool that people use, but I don't think they really understand what it does, is a hone. A lot of people, I think, believe that these actually sharpen the knife. They don't. What they do is they take the very, very edge and they align it. So your knife edge should basically look like this, but over time it'll move in different directions, and getting that misaligned with the edge itself will cause your knife to feel dull. This just puts that back on center. So in between sharpenings, this is your go-to. I actually never sharpen something without honing it first to make sure that I can't fix it there. So this is my favorite one. I've had a number of different types. I've had ceramic ones. I don't recommend those. Those remove a lot of metal. Diamond ones, same problem. I do like steel ones in general, and I especially like this brand, F. Dickeron. They have some cheaper ones. This one's about $100, but I really like the shape of it and I really like the texture on it. I find that it gives me good results. Again, kind of get what you pay for. So for most people, what I think you should have are in particular something around 1,000 and maybe 5,000 grit. Perfection actually has a combo that's 800 and 3,000, which I think will be easier to use for most people. It'll make it easier to get to that first wire edge. You'll see signs of success sooner, and you can always add on later if you feel like you need a higher grit stone. It's also really well priced. The whole combo is less than the price of a single 5,000 grit stone, and they're all 90-watt professional. They're great, great stuff. Perfection's actually a creator that got me into sharpening my own knives at first, so it's really cool to see that he actually has his own line of stuff with 90-watt now. Then I think a strop is really important. You don't have to have it right away, but I would say that over time, this is something to definitely invest in. And it's only, I think it's like $20 for the strop and $20 for the compound. So, and the compound lasts a really long time. Obviously everyone should have a hone. It's not very expensive. You can get one for 20, 30 bucks. I've got a link to F. Dickeron's cheaper one, as well as this one. And then, yeah, whatever stand works for you, honestly. You'll probably want maintenance stones over time. Again, I don't even have a leveler yet, but they're easy to acquire. They're maybe 10 to 15 bucks. So I've got links to all of these and some better budget options over at cultflave.com, link in bio. And alongside those, I've got resources to teach you how to sharpen your knives yourself from people who are way more qualified to do this than me, like Bob Kramer, Master Knife Smith. Alex from Try Cooking did a whole series on it. And Knifeware has a whole playlist of videos on how to repair your knives if you chip them or damage them or whatever. I think the best advice I could give is take your time, learn what to look for, and those videos have really great tips on how to figure out what you need to be doing to take care of your knife the best way possible. They're more like screwdrivers than they are like jewelry. They are tools, not decorations. There's nothing you can really do to fuck them up beyond repair unless you like break the knife off. And you're not gonna do that sharpening it, you're gonna do that dropping it. You'll have a much better time cooking if you learn how to do this stuff, and you can get better at it over time. You don't have to nail it the first time, you can just keep getting better, like everything you do in the kitchen.